In this video, I will be talking a little bit about Assetto Corsa Evo, because I was able to test drive Assetto Corsa Evo for the first time and was able to find some similarities and differences to the previous simulations Assetto Corsa 1 and Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Let's Go Race, the channel for virtual motorsport.
First eine Info to my German-speaking viewers. Dieses Video ist auch mit deutschem Kommentar verfügbar. Der Link zum deutschsprachigen Video findet ihr in der Videobeschreibung. At the Sim Racing Expo 2024, I was able to test Assetto Corsa Evo on two different simulators with different hardware. The first setup was an ImSim motion simulator with a Fanatec CSLDD and the ImSim Talento pedals. The second setup was a setup with Simucube 2 Pro, combined with 3 Simucube Active Pro pedals, the new, more affordable version of the Simucube Active pedals. I will also make a separate video about the pedals. I was able to test Assetto Corsa Evo in 3 weather conditions with different cars and different tracks. I started with the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup in Imola and dry weather conditions. In this race, we started in daylight and the race ended in the night. My main focus here was on the driving physics and the force feedback. In terms of handling, it's very similar to Assetto Corsa 1, which is in my opinion one of the best simulations when it comes to driving physics. The car could be driven very precisely, and the cars were not as spongy to drive as in arcade racing games like Forza Motorsport, so you could see that it is definitely going to be a simulation. In my opinion, the driving physics and handling are on the same level as Assetto Corsa 1, slightly better than ACC and iRacing and also significantly better than Automobilista 2. I'm not sure whether it can keep up with R Factor 2 because the test time was too short for that. What I already liked in Assetto Corsa 1 and also find so good in R Factor 2, and you can now also find it in Assetto Corsa Evo, is the good perceptibility of the limits of the car and the track. The behavior of the car and the effects make it easy to see when you're at the limit, and if you're over the limit, the car can be corrected and intercepted in a comprehensible way, which is also the case in real motorsport, and which I know from my motorsport and karting days. This, for example, is always a small point of criticism for me about the iRacing simulation. In my opinion, the developers have implemented this very well in Assetto Corsa Evo. I would already give the force feedback a grade of 1. In a Simucube setup, the force feedback was set slightly higher compared to the ImSim setup with Fanatec CSLDD. The effects were very nice, the curves were great and displayed differently, and it just felt right. So far, no simulation has convinced me so quickly in terms of force feedback, and I was able to get used to it as quickly as Assetto Corsa Evo, despite the beta status that the simulation still has. I would like to say more about the AI, but the AI was set very slow in both setups and I couldn't drive any real head-to-head battles. However, I did notice that the AI sometimes chose different lines to defend itself. I didn't have any crashes with the AI either, but that could also have been because of the slow settings. The AI is definitely better than Assetto Corsa 1, but which isn't difficult if I'm honest. The AI in Assetto Corsa 1 was simply very bad and sometimes made incomprehensible moves. The AI in AC Evo never crashed into me, even when I started a dive bomb, the AI reacted well. In the wet, I'm still not sure what to think of it, as it was sometimes really difficult to find the right line. As the laps went on, I realized that you can trust the visuals a bit, which is not the case in many simulations. If the track is shiny, it's wet and slippery. If it's less shiny in one place, it's not so slippery in that place. I definitely had the feeling that this was the case. Unfortunately, we could not test if the track becomes noticeably faster, as we were the only car on the track during the wet test and it was still raining. In the wet sections, however, it was sometimes really difficult to keep the car on the track because the car almost had too low grip. You could see the wet setting at the beginning, but it felt more like the wettest setting in ACC. Graphically, it could probably be the most beautiful game on the market at first look. You can recognize similarities with ACC, but it looks much better. Above all, the details are much clearer. In ACC, I always notice a trickle or lack of clarity, especially on trees, the grass, or other details. These have now completely disappeared. I also really like the rain and the reflections. The colors are not different to ACC, and it's more along the lines of Project Cars 2, which I think is a benchmark in terms of how colors are displayed. I also noticed something else that was extreme. Gravel makes you significantly slower than in other simulations, as you can see very clearly in the video. I think that could very well be how it is in real life. To be honest, I've never driven into gravel at full throttle, but the deceleration is more noticeable compared to other simulations, which I found quite good. During the last test, I drove the Hyundai i30N on a dry track, and you could feel a clear difference to the rear-wheel drive of the other two cars. However, the understeer was almost too strong for my taste. I've never driven the i30N in real life, but I have a Golf 7 GTI, which is relatively similar in terms of handling, and it doesn't understeer that much even in drying conditions. It just seemed to me to understeer a bit too much. The Porsche in the first test really felt as you would expect such a car to behave. Compared to the GTE version, the Cup Porsche is a little less stable on the rear axle, and you could really feel that. Assetto Corsa Evo could definitely become my go-to simulation. The driving physics and force feedback are similar, if not better, than in Assetto Corsa 1, and the graphics are much nicer than Assetto Corsa Competizione. If the AI is a small improvement on Assetto Corsa Competizione, I will be more than satisfied. But it looked very much like that in the test with the Porsche. I hope you enjoyed the video. More videos and tests from the Sim Racing Expo 2024 will be released in the coming weeks. This will include the Simucube active pedals, many new steering wheels and hardware from Assetec, Fanatec, VPG, Tube Controls, Pack, Bavarian SimTech, GSI, SimLab with the Mercedes F1 steering wheel and the new DD base, and much more. If you have any further questions, please write them in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you next time.